Cool. Well, welcome to the pod, Harry. This is the second time we've shot an episode. When was the first time? A few months ago?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 3 months, something like that.
So Harry and I have just done an in-person coaching deep dive in London. Obviously, you can see the skyscraper here, and I mean, we can unpack a little bit about what we covered today. But I just want to welcome you back to the podcast, mate.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
pleasure.
It's good. It's not a bad scenery, right?
Very nice. Very nice indeed. Glad to be here.
It's good. So, just for context, for the people that haven't seen the episode that we shot 3 or 4 months ago, introduce yourself. Tell the people that are listening, like, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Harry. I would describe myself as an educator. Someone who loves learning and constantly trying to sort of improve myself. I think on the pod before we talked about or celebrated a year's sobriety, which has been fantastic for me, and I'm still doing that. I'm really enjoying that. So I'm a multiple business owner. I'm passionate about movement, about sport, about fitness, about well-being. So yeah, it's great to be here and share some of my journey, really.
Yeah, I think it's a really inspiring journey that you've been on too. Obviously, we just went for some lunch. We were talking about a couple of things and stuff, which it sounds like you're moving in the right direction. It's really exciting. For the people that didn't or that don't know you, what was life like before? Like, because we've been working together, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, maybe something like that. I think we first connected about January time. What was life like when you raised your hand and thought, there's something deeper here that kind of needs to be addressed?
Yeah. I'd say it was quite tough, to be honest. It was something that I'd sort of built up over quite a long period of time and knew that something wasn't right. I like to openly talk about, over quite a long period, I'd sort of used alcohol to sort of, I'd say, manage, how I was feeling. And yeah, I just got to a point where I realised that, it wasn't really working. So I knew that there need to be some significant changes. And I started to sort of like look to invest in my health, obviously well-being. And that was working, but I thought as well I wanted to work more on my mindset as well, which I think is very, very important and goes hand in hand. Obviously, I'd followed your story and seen some of the work that you'd done, and because we were in the same coaching program from a fitness perspective, and your story really intrigued me. So I reached out and we started to work together. And I think the main thing is trying to be more self-aware. And I think that's one of the main reasons for not drinking alcohol. I think because the longer you sort of go on that journey, the more clarity you get. And I'm really intrigued to keep exploring my self-awareness and just trying to be more conscious about how I'm living my life and what I'm doing, really.
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely on the right path, mate. And even the Harry that, when we chatted initially 7, 8, 9 months ago now, the way that you're showing up differently, the new levels in which you're reaching in your business and you're in your own performance, I think it's admirable. For the people that are maybe in a similar position to when you reached out back in like January and you raised your hand and you kind of knew that something needed to change, but I suppose what I'm trying to ask is, what are the signs that you experienced then that someone listening or watching this and seeing where you are now, if they're back at that point, like, how do they know?
I think you probably have a feeling internally, I'd say. And often I think the body is also very, very clever as well. I think if you're not living true to your actual true values, I think the body has a very interesting way of giving you signals and signs. For example, back around that time, I was getting some really strange injuries, pains and stuff like that we couldn't really work out what they were. And I think when I look back on it, it's probably due to being quite stressed, being quite anxious about stuff. I mean, talking about, owning businesses and stuff, and being an expat, having moved to Dubai during the pandemic as well. there's definitely stats that say, as a small business owner, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of small business owners encounter some mental health difficulties. And also as an expat leaving the UK and moving to a different country. So that you can definitely feel that something's not right. The body will normally be giving you certain signs and signals. But I think for me, that's actually quite a good thing, because if you're willing to listen to that and learn from that and just know that, I reflect back and think, look, what I knew was something needed to change. So try to take action and try different things. And, that's what I did. I think I'm on the right path now because I've found quite a few things that certainly serve me. I tried other things before that perhaps on their own didn't work. But I think what I'd say is it's more of a holistic approach to investing in yourself and looking after yourself that can really, really help you. And I think that's the key thing here is, like I always say, like you're your most important asset. I think that's in life or in business. And I think the answer for me there was invest more in myself. Often I'd put the businesses before me. And, I think often that led to potential burnout. And what I realise now is actually, rather than trying to do more on the businesses, I should have done more on myself, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm glad I've found that pathway now, but it has taken me a long time. So I'm grateful for that. But I think, I'd like to sort of put on record that, I'd hope that some people, by listening to certainly your pods and your journey, is, you can take the sort of, I'd say, right, or I'd say better path earlier than I did, because I'm 46 now. And I'm glad I've found it now, but I think, you can certainly take that path earlier if you have that awareness in yourself.
Yeah, well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? It's a good thing that you did it now rather than 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Yeah. Warren Buffett's got a fantastic quote, and it's about how you are the best investment in that you can make.
Yeah.
I actually had a call with my therapist recently, and he said, what are you investing in, like crypto, blah, blah, blah. And I put a little bit into that, but my main investment is myself. And that's what I said to him. And he was like, yeah, fair play. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah.
So for someone that's like, I don't know, you mentioned younger than you, not that age matters. But for someone that is maybe in their 20s, in their 30s, like, or maybe regardless of the age really, but looking to make that first step, like, how would they do that? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I think it's important to identify like a clear why for what you're doing. I think one of my favourites is, if the why is strong enough, the how becomes easy, or easier, I'd say. So I think you need to try and identify a real key reason why you're wanting to make these improvements. And yeah, I think when you can do that and you've got a clear reason, then it becomes easier to implement what you're doing. So I think it's identifying where you're at, and I think maybe trying to also identify where you want to go to as well. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to aspire to? I think that's important as well. We were discussing earlier, certainly my previous experiences in business, it was quite reactive in that there wasn't really a clear end goal that I was working towards. And we talked about, it's almost like you're driving somewhere, but you've not got a final destination. So you can go all the way sort of around, or you might be actually lost. But yeah, I think it's having that why and sort of knowing where you're trying to work towards, but then trying to enjoy the process, I think, is really, really important. And that again comes back to being more self-aware. Because, if you're not enjoying the process, often sometimes we can get too obsessed with the outcome or the end goal. And if we're not enjoying the process, then I think, sometimes we can lose motivation or sight of what we're trying to do. And so I think it's really important to know where you're trying to go. And then, just try and work out a clear way to get there. And I think that's where it's important to, certainly work with coaches like yourself and others, because for me, one of the key things is accountability. And talking about investing in yourself, I think, one thing that does sort of, when I reflect back on myself, and I used to have sort of this internal battle where I had no issue with, going out on a weekend and spending like hundreds of pounds on alcohol, or, erasing my brain. And yet then, the week, I'd perhaps be deliberating a gym membership or a healthy meal or a healthy shop, and it's all skewed, so now it's more, like when you're booking a coach, look at that as a very significant investment. And I think as well, when you pay money for something, you're always more likely to commit to that. Because even myself, I'm a coach, a trained teacher, I still work with people, and often, I always want to help people. And I think sometimes when you give something away, often people don't value as much as when they've bought into something, when they've invested into something. So I think often, making that investment, paying money, because the way I look at that is, I'm paying, money to do something. So I'm going to do it, because, if I'm paying money and I'm not, then it's a waste of money, isn't it?
100%.
I think investing in a coach, whether that be, someone like yourself, or even, in the fitness, or, whatever it is, I think it's a real important and significant investment to get that accountability.
Yeah.
And that's something I think from today, what we've discussed, one of the main reasons and where we're evolving to now is, what's important for me now in, business is having someone, and in life, actually, we say in business a lot, but, and in my personal life, that there's someone I can be accountable to. I am, dedicated and committed myself, and I want to do better, and I've got very high expectations of myself. But, sometimes it's just great to have that person who's going to, ask you, well, how's it going? Is it working well? If it's not, well, why is it not? And what can we change? I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I think with you being a business owner, I think it's quite easy for you to see the return of investment on the investment.
Yeah.
Because you've obviously invested in the past, you've invested in yourself, you've invested in programs and certifications and all sorts, right? In business. Of course you do. Marketing, admin, whatever. Investing in yourself is so important, but also I look at it as, is it an investment or a cost, right? And the difference between investment and a cost, as an investment is you see a clear return.
Yeah.
Whereas a cost is something like, I don't know, buying a pair of trainers or something like that, right? And I think a lot of people try doing things by themselves and struggle and battle and grind, and some people do get there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in any realm, whether it's addiction, fitness coaching, I don't know, therapy, whatever it is, right? They try and do it by themselves and then struggle for a very, very, very long time. Whereas I've always seen, if I can find someone that has what I want, that can get me there 10, 15, 20 times faster, whatever the percentage is, why would I not do that?
No.
And I do see a lot with people that they do really struggle and fall and stuff. And sometimes you need to collect that scar tissue to be like, right, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Had you tried by yourself numerous times with your mindset and stuff? I know you're quite into personal development anyway. And what was the thing that made you think, right, I don't want to be doing this solo now. I want to be doing this with a partnership, with a thinking partnership?
Yeah, I think, and we were discussing this earlier, right? I'm a trained teacher and trained coach in multiple things. And it is quite strange. We were saying earlier that I went through a long period where I thought I could do it myself, but yet I'm a teacher or coach. So, the whole idea of a coach or teacher is you can support someone, guide someone to hopefully, improve themselves or learn or achieve good results. I think I had tried to do and done things myself because, when I came up against challenges and, I was struggling with certain aspects, I did sort of feel that I wanted to try and leverage a lot of the things that I could do myself, which I think, often I would say to people, if you are struggling with something, do look at what I'd class as like the fundamentals of looking after yourself. Often, are you eating well? And it sounds obvious, are you drinking enough water? Alcohol is a big one because, is sometimes not about adding things, is it? Sometimes it might be actually taking things away. And for me, it was taking one thing away, which was alcohol, which was really not serving me. And I believe that I'd tried to leverage a lot of those things on my own. And I think, you know, I'd had some success, and I sort of feel that I can get myself to a certain level on my own. But I think when I want to go to the next level, when I want to get to outstanding results, I just think that's the time when you need to, you know, work with a coach or invest in a coach or a mentor or a teacher. Because, you know, again, we've talked about the example of I'm in sport, and, you know, all the best athletes, sports people, they've got teams, you know, they've got trainers, they've had them for years, you know, and that's why they don't get there on their own, you know. So, and then there is the whole, you know, team element, isn't it? You know, I think through the self-awareness, it's knowing what you're good at, what your weaknesses are. And, you know, can you bring somebody in or a team in to support you with those areas, you know? And I know in business, this is what I have learned now. It's very much about, you know your strengths, know what you're good at. Try and make sure the majority of what you do is that, and then hopefully build a team around you that are good and excel in those other areas in business. And I think with that team ethic and approach, you can achieve great things. So that's why now at the minute, you know, I was reflecting earlier, you know, I'm working with 3 separate coaches, you know, across 3 different things. And it's amazing. You know, I'm really grateful that I can do that. And I think it's fantastic, and I love it. So
yeah, it's great. And I like to look at life, because for the people that aren't a business owner or whatever, they might not be able to have a team, but you can have a team in your personal life.
Yeah.
You can have a team of a solid boardroom of advisors that assist you in making life decisions, right? Whether that be a coach or a financial accountant, or whether that be a nutritionist or whatever, right? You can always have teams in your personal, professional life too.
Definitely.
And I think it's super important. And I think you're really now starting to see the benefits. I mean, we'll go on to where you are at the moment and talk about your current journey, but I think you're making some incredible progress. And I just want to understand, like, what was the impact of staying where you were with no one in your corner? Obviously, I know you've had mentors and stuff in the past, but like at that time, I believe you weren't working with the fitness coach at that point. I believe we weren't working together. I don't know about the other guy or girl.
No.
But what was the point where you were like, right, I'm knuckling down now, I'm doubling in, I'm going hard? Like, what was that tipping point, that turning point, do you think?
I think it was, you know, as I said earlier, knowing that something needed to change. But, you know, I think, and I'll openly speak, you know, being in quite a difficult place where, I was struggling with a lot of things, you know. I think one of the things I would say was, as a man, you know, probably bottling a lot of things up, you know, wanting to not appear to be vulnerable or not appear to be failing. Yet these are the most important things that you need to, first of all, identify and then admit and talk about. And I think the vulnerability is something that I learnt is, you know, speaking to people and showing signs of vulnerability is actually a strength. Yet as a man, you know, of my age, it's, you know, we were sort of almost, it was ingrained in us that we have to be strong, and, you know, we don't show, and again in sport, you know, you don't show weakness, you don't show the opposition that, you know, because they can get one up on you for doing that, or, you know, you're giving them an advantage. Yeah, I think what I'd say to anyone is, you know, one of the best things you can do through getting a coach, or even if you haven't got the resources to do that, but, you know, talk about what you're going through, you know, share your experience, especially if you're having difficulties. Because I think one of the things I learned is, even just through that, sharing, talking about something, getting it off your chest is actually really, really important. And I think as well, you know, you might be thinking, well, you know, but I haven't got a solution for someone if you're the person who's listening. But often it's not about having the solution. It's about just listening to them.
Like,
you know, you know, earlier, and I was personally talking about, through self-awareness, one of the things I really need to work on is listening, actively listening to understand someone, not listening to tell them what I know about, because that's I think a lot of people are, and we're so eager to tell them what we know about a subject. You know, it's almost like, right, I'm eager to sort of almost interrupt you because I'm going to tell you what I know about that. But, you know, you made a great point earlier about, you know, two ears and one mouth, you know, and there's a reason for that, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you know, then I think I said back that, you know, you don't learn anything when you're talking either. So I think it's just having the courage to say, you know, I'm going to talk about this. You know, I'm struggling with something. And then I think what I'd link back to that, one of the most powerful things, and I know we talk about this a lot, which I would advise anyone to have a go at, is if you are struggling with things and you're struggling to understand things, is start to journal. Because I'd say I've probably been journaling now for 2 years around that, and it has been life changing for me, because one of the people I follow, you know, he gave a good example and he compared it to number. You know, if I was to chuck out a really complex maths equation to you to answer it straight on the spot, you might struggle. But if you were able to go and sit with paper and work it out, you'd probably be able to do it. And I think that's often what's happening with our thoughts. We've got all these thoughts going around. We're confused. We don't understand certain things. So put it down onto paper. And then what happens is, what I found, especially at my lowest times, is there was patterns emerging from what I was writing. So I could see what is occurring on a bad day, and I could also see what is occurring on a good day. So then I started to sort of, it sounds really obvious, but do more of what's happening on a good day and try and do less of what's happening on a bad day. And actually that was incredible for me.
Yeah.
You know, but so I'd just suggest to anyone that, you know, just try journaling. And something, well, you know, how do I do it? You know, what's the sort of structure to it? What are the tactics to it? There isn't really any, to be honest. It's down to the individual, but just start writing stuff down.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, and I think that's been amazing for me. It's the first thing, you know, I do every day. And it's life changing, in my opinion.
Yeah, whenever someone is facing a psychological battle of fighting thought, because sometimes when you're stuck in these rumination states, when your mind is spinning, and a lot of people that I work with, business owners, high performers, salesmen, whatever, they have a very active mind, right? A lot of business owners are neurodivergent, ADHD, autistic, whatever, right? And they have a very overactive mind. So whenever a client comes to me like that, I get them to have a psychological battle, basically, and not fighting thought with thought, but actually fighting pen with thought. And actually writing out actually processing these thoughts, right? Yeah. And that really slows the mind down, because I get them to write a minimum 3 A4 pages of paper, and you don't stop, right? Keep writing. And it's like the pressure valve. It's just like going and just decompressing. Yeah. And it's like such a vital thing for me, and I've made it a ritual for me now. I've got a nice fountain pen, I've got a nice blue ink, I've got a nice journal. Even before you came to the session today, I spent some time, I call it a brain dump. So literally just dump the stuff from the brain. It's so important. And can even think of a new client the other day. She was speaking to me, and I sent her a journal. I said, go and use this, make it a ritual, because we see that as obviously we'll just journal. But for someone that's never journaled before, like, you wouldn't know the answer unless you know. Like, you don't know until you know, right? So it sometimes takes a conversation like this for someone to be like, maybe that may slow the mind down. And that's a really good process. So
and I totally agree. I think it's good, you know, give it a try.
100%. Yeah. And going back to what you said about listening and understanding, there's a really, really good principle that I always tell my clients whenever they're looking to find answers and solutions, is seek first to understand before being understood. I think you
told me that. Yeah. I think that's amazing. It is. It's very important. Yeah. You know, because often we don't do that, you know, and I think me personally, you know, certainly in the past, you know, I've been quite judgmental of people. And I've certainly not understood their scenario. And, you know, when you reflect back on that, that's really quite unhelpful for the person. So I know it's not easy sometimes, because the ego can lead us, and we can be quite emotional in certain things, especially that we care about. But again, I'd say, often you don't know what that person's going through. You know, you don't understand that. So really do try and do that before you start to be too critical of other people, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I'm certainly not the finished article on that, but I'm certainly getting better at that. You know, another one you said to me that does resonate and always sticks with me, you know, when we're sort of talking about perhaps certain people where we thought they may have not acted in the way that we wanted or the right way. And I remember you said, you know, asked me whether I thought that person was doing the best they could with the resources they had available at the time. And again, I'd ask people to ask themselves that question, because when you asked me that and then I thought about the scenarios, I can categorically say that I know those people were doing that. It was a relief for me to then know, actually, no, you know, they weren't trying to hurt me, or, you know, they were doing the best they could at that time with the resources they had. And I think that can be sometimes be quite liberating to know that.
Yeah, I absolutely love asking these questions, because it's like that one question cut through 30 years of noise, whatever it was.
Or hurt, you know, hurt or pain.
Yeah.
You know, trauma even, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself that and you go, right, no, I know they were doing that. So, and again, but then it's sort of trying to have a better understanding of what they were going through or how they were at that time. And it's empathy, isn't it? It's just trying to sometimes put yourself in someone else's shoes.
It is.
And yeah, I'm trying a lot better to do that now. And again, I'm not the finished article, but through being self-aware and, you know, some of the traits that we're working on, you know, through some of the hypnotherapy and going back, and, you know, one of the things that always comes out with me is I'd like to be more calm in certain scenarios. I think that's something that we can control to a level. Going to breath work as well, because, you know, another thing that I think is really important is life is going to test us, you know, all the time, and whoever thinks that it's not is going to be in trouble. So I think, you know, knowing that life is going to test us, and what we're ultimately in control of, I believe now, is how we respond. I used to say how we react, but I think respond is a better word. And it's not easy, but, you know, in a situation that might be really difficult, can you stay calm? You know, can you take a few breaths? Can you just take a minute? You know, we were laughing earlier about, you know, a certain messages coming through and you getting quite emotional, wanting to go straight back and just say, no, just take a few hours on that.
Yeah.
Reflect on it, and you'll go back with a much better, calmer response, you know? So yeah, I think, the calmness and just trying to be in control of how we respond to life's challenges is something that is really useful.
Well, yeah, I think you are showing up calmer. I don't know if you can feel that within yourself, but even the way that you're carrying yourself today, obviously this is the first time I've met you in person. For context, Harry's over from Dubai, made a long journey. He's been doing some work in England for a few months, I believe. And it was inevitable that we had to meet. But even in person, it's you can sense it over video, but it can be it can be deceiving sometimes on video. But like when you're actually in person, I can sense that you are showing up calmer. You're a bit just like chill, like, yeah, cool, like just going with the flow, right?
That's the key for, I think, going with the flow. And then that's another thing we've had interesting conversations about, because as a business owner, you know, ultimately I always want to be going with the flow, but, you know, sometimes you have to sort of look at boundaries and decide when you're going to go into, you know, sort of work or mission. I call it more of a mission than work, but, you know, that mode where you need to be driven and focused and working super hard towards something. But then, you know, there's other times where just go with the flow, and that's how I try and be more in scenarios like this. You know, I'm from Leicester, and, you know, traveling down from Leicester and, you know, getting the train here and stuff, but I've just been really relaxed and just enjoying and being grateful for the opportunity. And I think that's a much better way to be, you know. Yeah,
and it's been an epic day, mate.
Yeah, it's been
good. Let's talk about, we don't need to go into detail, but the process that we've worked through so far. So I don't even know if you're actually even conscious of the process that we've actually been working through. I tend to follow a loose framework with my clients. The first phase is the subconscious reprogramming system. And that's the hypnotherapy, essentially. And that's the rewiring of the subconscious mind that we've been working on over the last few months. And even today, we'll talk about what we did today, but that's been a real from what I can see for you, I want you to kind of say your experience, but I think that's actually been pretty transformational for you to work through and unpick some of the emotional content that you've been carrying around.
Yeah.
How have you found the subconscious reprogramming system?
I think it's unbelievable. I absolutely love it. So when we booked in to do this deep dive, this sort of full day, what was really good is I just took a bit of time to reflect on what we'd done. Because we've done it, we've worked together a while now and we've done quite a lot of different things. And when I did that, the hypnotherapy parts were amazing because number one, I'm into spirituality, meditation, trying to sort of be in touch with my thoughts, calm my mind, that type of stuff. But some of the stuff you did, where we identified certain, challenges from the past. We've talked about, I know one of my challenges before was low self-worth. Some things that I believe most people have got certain, I'd say challenges from their childhood. And I know I certainly had some of them. And the way that you or we go back to those challenges and you have the way of reflecting and reframing, I think is really, really interesting. And then I think what I loved is, almost trying to make that evolution into, a more developed, I would say, a better person, because I think we always should be trying to sort of better ourselves and evolve. And then you did me the voice recording, of including the language that I'd use. So you weren't sort of telling me, right, you need to be like this. These are the words. You identified what I said, and then you used that language. And then I played that back. And when I reflected, I reckon I played that back hundreds of times, almost to the point. Don't ask me to recite it now, but almost to the point where
Say it all out, mate.
No, because it was quite long. It was about, I think it was about
10 minutes.
No, that one was about, the new one's 10 minutes, I think, but I think that one was about seven or 8 minutes. And and it was just amazing. And then as well, the symbol, identifying a symbol and linking that to the values that I want to be leading my life by. And that still works now. When I see that symbol, I think, and I know I can tell you the words now, being more calm, being relaxed, being happy, and they're 100% from that time to how I am now. 100% I am more calm, I am more relaxed, and I am more happy. So
can I just add something on that?
Yeah.
So for context, the clinical hypnotherapy is different to cognitive hypnotherapy, right? I'm a cognitive hypnotherapist, and clinical hypnotherapy, it tends to be a very one-size-fits-all approach. They tend to use their own. It can be very easy for a therapist or a coach to portray their beliefs onto the client, i.e., be happy, be confident. But if you don't want happiness and confidence, then it doesn't land, right? The reason why it's landed so well for you is because I asked you the questions. I said, what do you want? How do you want your life to be different? How do you want to be thinking, feeling, performing, behaving? What's the identities that you hold? What's the beliefs that you carry?
Yeah.
And then I did a hypnosis recording and I tailored your language and I weaved it into the recording.
Yeah.
And that's why it's landed so well, is because it's your words.
Yeah.
It's what you want. And it's so important to do that because, like I said, it's not a one size fits all approach, right? Some people are visual learners, some people are kinesthetic, some people are audio digital or whatever. And it's about adapting your approach to suit the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's what's been so important. And even like today, mate, like when we're now evolving into the new identity and the new role that you're stepping into, are you able to share what that is? Or
yeah, I mean, it's just going through now. So it was one of my life goals to basically acquire a business that I've worked with for quite a long time, and it's soon to be signed off. So soon I'll be taking over as the CEO of that company. And that is, I mean, talk about life goals and manifesting things, and that's something I've wanted for a long time, and that's soon to happen. So that's why it's really important that I do work hard to evolve and to improve you know, how I am as a person, you know, and ultimately, hopefully, you know, a good leader of that company.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we did this deep dive today is because you're stepping into that new role, that new identity.
Yeah.
And again, I pulled up the whiteboard today. We did some hypnotherapy, and we don't need to go into the context, but we did some emotional work.
Yeah.
And then I pulled up the board and said, right, tell me this new role. What do you want? Yeah. What is, how do you want to show up in the office? How do you want to show up at home? And we really dived in deep.
Yeah.
And that's now in your inbox, and that's going to be listened to, and you're going to recite that every day. And the next time we meet, you'll be able to say it off the top of your head again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. But this is just so important. It's like when you buy a new car, everyone has that car.
Yeah.
You buy a new t-shirt, everyone's got that t-shirt. It's priming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important. And I mean, the next phase tends to be the mindful living system. And this is more about optimizing your weekly performance, your structure, your habits, your routines and stuff like that. So how have you found this phase? Well, I say this phase. How have you found that phase, the mindful living system, with the weekly structure and the kind of morning routines and stuff like that? How have you found all of that?
I think it's amazing. Again, the accountability is key to that, because I was aware of you know, energy flows, you know, more productive times. You know, I've read up on that before, and I believe, you know, as a human, we start the day like a phone, right? Charge, the battery's fully charged, generally, or hopefully at least above, like, let's say 80%. And then as the day goes, I believe that battery gets drained depending on what we're doing. And there's different trains of thought, but you know, I believe we've probably got 4 or 5 really good hours in us a day. I do believe that if you're working hard, if you say, you know, some people use the phrase deep work, but something that's really pushing you, having to engage, like, i.e. teaching or coaching. For me, when I do that, to cross the line to teach or coach someone, I'm giving it everything.
Same here.
You know, I'm giving I'm giving it everything. So, you know, I don't believe you can do 10 hours of that, because it's not physical. Because if you're going to give it everything, you know, so, you know, I'm lucky enough to be back in the UK and with one of my companies running, you know, sports camps for kids, you know, and I said earlier, you know, we probably start at 9:30, finish at 3, but it's full on with the kids day in, day out, and they are absolutely incredible, full of energy, but I want to give them energy as well. By the time I'm done on that, you know, I do need to have a quick power nap. But it's about, you know, knowing when you've got that, when are your peak times? I know I'm much more energetic in the morning. So it's, you know, working with yourself to say, right, when are your real key flow times? What kind of tasks are you doing in that time as well? Breaking down, you know, what's more deep work, you know, your bigger tasks, and set about them. So I think that's really good. But as well, like, I think what I'd say is, the whole of my schedule revolves around the most important thing, which is what I'm doing that day to invest in myself. Right. So, you know, the things that will always go down when I map out the week first is when I'm going to meditate, when I'm going to go to the gym, my meals, when am I eating my meals, when am I prepping my meals, you know, when I'm having a nap. That goes in first, you know, when am I having time with my wife? You know, when am I having quality time? That goes in first, and then everything else goes, including my business and work, goes around that. And I believe that's very important, because, again, I learned from your program and in another program that, you know, why do we often map or plan our lives around our work? Well, some of us are lucky enough to do something that we really love, but, you know, I prefer to map my schedule around my things that I like, things that are great for me, things that are going to pay a return for me, you know. So that's what I set out to do. And then, you know that you've got a good few hours in, you know when that is, but then execute that over time, you know. And if you're committed to that, it's all the thing, you know, they're quite boring, aren't we? I said this in the last one, but be disciplined, you know, be committed and be consistent in what you do. And providing you do that in any sort of field, you will get results.
Yeah, and success,
it's a fact.
Yeah,
you will.
Success is boring.
Yeah,
it's
boring. Yeah,
yeah. We're always looking for the shiny new object, like,
yeah, or the quick fix, or the hat. People saying hat, but really, I don't think there is that.
Really, and that's the thing. These programs that promise. I was speaking to someone this morning, and she was messaging me, and she said, "Oh, I'm working with blah blah blah. He's promised me 24/7." responses. I said, bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no one's going to give you 24/7
I mean,
replies.
no.
Like these people that promise the world and deliver with nothing. Unfortunately, some people are like that, but success is boring, and these people, so it can be very easy to look for the very quick fixes.
Yeah.
Like we're in this state of constant dopamine, right? We want to order food, gets delivered to our house within minutes, especially living in Dubai.
Yeah.
Amazon to our door. I don't know. We want to read a book, get it on Kindle straight away. Like it's constant. The delayed gratification is next to none, and that can transfer into our life too, with programs and coaches and stuff. So I think it's really important to actually under promise and over deliver rather than over promise and under deliver.
Yes.
So important. But that mindful living system, second phase, that sounds like that's been really beneficial for you. And even the energy audit, I remember you coming to me a couple of months back, and you were quite exhausted. And I said, mate, we'll do an audit. We sat down, we did an energy audit. I said, close your laptop, go and get a massage.
Yeah.
And you messaged me back a few hours later. So it was the best thing since
it was brilliant. And that's what you've got to do sometimes. You've got to listen to luckily you advised me on that, you know, and that's the beauty of having a coach sometimes. And when you said that, I thought, yeah, exactly, do that. But I probably wouldn't have done that myself.
No.
And it was the best thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make sure we do that. But yeah, it's, no, it's great. And I think it's just, again, trying to learn about yourself, isn't it? And as well, what's important is reviewing what you're doing from time to time. Look back on it, you know, because you don't always get it right, do you? First time, you might have to change things. But, you know, review with your coach and say, right, well, how's it go? You know, how did this week go? What worked well? You know, was your energy dipping at any times, you know? Because I'm like a different, you know, from me to the morning to the sort of, let's say, evening, I'm a different person. And I'll openly admit that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, don't come to me with anything sort of after 6:30 in the evening, anything too challenging, because, you know, I'll put it on hold till the next morning.
Well, you've understood your peak performance hours. You've understood, right, Harry best operates between X and Y. And you now know no decisions get made after 6:30. And that's cool, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people will be able to benefit from that advice. Maybe someone listening isn't a business owner, but you can make that decision in your relationship, in decisions that you make that are important to you, or whatever it is in the other person's world. That's super important to understand. This is when I best operate. This is when I tick, and anything that past that time gets dealt with the next day. That moves nicely on to the third phase, the future vision blueprint. And that's today in the in-person deep dive, we mainly touched on the subconscious reprogramming system, i.e. the cognitive hypnotherapy and the emotional content. But then the future vision blueprint, and that's what kind of lit you up. I remember getting you on the whiteboard, writing down your perfect day, your perfect life. And that's also so important, because like you said earlier, some people drive the car without the GPS, right? So how did you find, for context, today we obviously did the in-person deep dive, dived into the subconscious work, but then the future vision blueprint, and we essentially mapped out the North Star, where you want to be in X amount of years, right? You've got crystal clear on that from hour by hour, 7 a.m. X, 8 a.m. Y, all the way down to the evening. And then it's about reverse engineering that and breaking it down into clear 180-day, 90-day sprints. For you, it was 180 days. And how did you find that process? And now you've got a kind of checklist and a clear, actionable process that you can now work through. Do you think that's going to now take you to your goals even quicker and further?
Yeah, I think it will, definitely. I mean, I love the idea of reverse engineering something. I think that's really important, and I do that in my field of work. I think first of all, it was good that I have done some work on this. So, you know, through journaling and sort of goal setting and target setting, you know, I know I know where I sort of want to be. You know, I sort of had a vision of that, but I think today we got more granular. We went into more details, you know, breaking down a day, you know, what's happening, who's with me, and it evolved. And obviously it went off on a little bit of a tangent into certain discussions, which were really, really useful as well. But I think then it's with yourself is, okay, that's great. But like you say, it's then what are the key actions, you know, daily, the 3 to maybe 5 key actions that I need to be doing day by day and executing over time to get there. I think that's really important because, you know, I often compare things in business to my journey in fitness, and why I can, you know, execute, say, a body transformation, or, you know, I can get into really good shape for my age. That's because when I do that, the coach will give me like basically 3 to 5 things to do daily. And if I do them over time, and it's normally a reasonable amount of time, I'll get the result. And I like that process. But often we don't do that in our life, or in our personal life, or in business. So that was really useful. And I think, you know, to then you gave me the few tasks to go away and make sure we get even more detail. And then to obviously work through that. And, you know, I love the fact that, you know, we talked about, okay, in the 180 days, you know, what am I hoping to have achieved by that time? You know, we talked about some figures, you know, how's that looking in the new business? What am I trying to do? You know, what kind of contracts am I trying to land? And also my personal life, you know, how, you know, I want to be showing up for my wife, and the type of things that, and quality time I want to be spending with my wife as well is really important in there as well. So, yeah. And then ultimately, you know, there's going to be accountability, and I feel very excited for that because before I've sort of done this, and I've planned things out, but I've never really been accountable. So I think this is going to sort of really enhance how I do that, and I'm excited. I'm excited to do that, and I'm very, very confident that, you know, we'll get there. And what I know as well is I will enjoy the process. I think that's important, because, you know, if we don't do that, then, you know, what's the point anyway?
Well, exactly. And this isn't me saying, yep, go and do this. I've asked you, what do you want to do? Right? I've asked you questions that, again, adapt to you and your needs, not just, oh, Harry, go and do this, go and do this, and go and do this because it suits me. It's what suits you, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it enjoyable, and that's what makes it exciting. And like Steve Jobs says, the journey is the reward, right? It's not the destination, it's the journey, it's the process. Yeah. That's the cool thing. So yeah, we've essentially lit a rocket and put it up your ass, and you're going to go fly us.
That's what we're doing. But no, it's brilliant. And yeah, just enjoying the process is just, yeah. And I think, again, the self-awareness but going back to sort of meditation and breath work and stuff like that, it's making sure you're in the moment. I think, again, that's one of the most important things that I can say to anyone is, you know, bring yourself into the moment. And I think, you know, even today, you know, I was walking around London, and you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, having a laugh about looking at how many people are walking around staring at their phones, you know, which I just think is a shame, because, you know, it's a beautiful day, you know, we're in beautiful surroundings, and people had rather just walk around zombifying at a phone, you know, like, and I just think that's a shame. So I think sometimes just put your phone away, you know, don't link it into Wi-Fi, whatever, or like me, have no data on it while you're in the UK. And just enjoy your surroundings, try and be present, fire up your senses we talked about as well, you know. Yeah, and try and be present.
Oh, mate, whenever I'm away, like when I was in Bali, I didn't buy a SIM. Like I made sure I didn't get one, because these phones are designed to keep you hooked, right? And they're designed to pull you in. Have you seen that film, Social Engineering?
I've seen the Netflix.
The Social Dilemma.
Yeah. I've seen that. And just actually a point you made earlier, you know, on people's attention and staring and the dopamine. We're not designed to be constantly stimulated, right? Yet we are now. And that is very, very dangerous. When actually one of the most important things we can do is just have some time where we sit and do nothing.
Boredom.
Right, boredom.
Yeah.
Kids, especially because I work with kids, and now kids are overstimulated, you know, like they can't, you know, if there's any time, you know, let me give, you know, they might be standing in a queue or get the iPad out or stick them on a phone, let them stare. No, just let them stare. Just let them stand in a queue and be in their thoughts. You know what? They might make up a little game, you know, or they might start having a conversation with someone. But now it's no, we can't get them on a game or let them stare at the phone. You know, again, like on one of the things we focus on the camps is encouraging kids to eat healthily. So the funders of the camps said to me, we've got this wonderful new app that we're going to use. And I said, no, thank you. I don't want to use that. I said, I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to show them, I'm going to eat healthy with them. I'm going to talk to them about it and have a conversation and set an example rather than, I don't want them to stare at another screen to learn how to eat healthy. I think they look at enough screens, thank you. So so that shut that one down quite quickly. But
yeah, well, it's good. It's good. I mean, even my little cousin, we go to Spain every year, there for 2 weeks, and he sits in his room on his iPad talking to his mates back home.
Yeah. I know it's difficult because, you know, these, you know, if you look at another book I'd highly recommend is Stolen Focus. Amazing, because what you got to remember, I used to sort of be critical of myself, beat myself up. Why am I looking at this phone? You know, why am I I've just lost 20 minutes scrolling. Yeah, but remember, there's some of the most intelligent people, in Silicon Valley or wherever they are, whose job it is being paid huge amounts of money specifically to keep us looking at that phone.
They actually get psychologists and stuff in.
You know, everything. The colour. I mean, again, I think maybe in your program or another one, set your phone to grayscale. You know, put it on black and white. Guess what? It's a lot less interesting.
Do you have Opal?
No, but I think you've told me about that. It's amazing, isn't it? Just because it's the colour. Often that colour that's in the phones and is super stimulating, isn't it? So I think we need to go back to sometime just saying let's unplug. Let's have some time alone with our thoughts. You know, like one of my favourites is Deepak Chopra. You know, he'll say, go within. You know, go when you're doing a meditation, right, now you're going to go within. And yeah, I think it's important that we have that time for ourselves, you know. Back at school, you know, we used to get told off for daydreaming, you know, staring out. That's one of the most important things we can do, where the mind goes in. That's a beautiful place. Yeah, you know, I can often think, and I can think of examples that, you know, staring out the window, thinking of something nice, and the teacher like screaming down, you thought, what are you doing? Get back to it. You know, it's that's, you know, a good time where the mind is free and flowing into a very creative place. But you know, we get told off, don't we? Yeah,
well, whenever a client struggles with feeling their emotions or their thoughts, I actually encourage them to sit with themselves and like be bored, because it's in that boredom that things start to arise, right? It's in that discomfort that, okay, I feel agitated. I feel this tension in my body. I feel this lump in my throat. I feel this anxiousness in the pit of my stomach. Like, we're either working, we come home, watch TV, on our phone watching TV, then we're like walking on our phones, then I'm not saying us, but like in general, and then like I don't know, eating dinner, watching TV, like just constant stimulation. And actually there's no wonder why people can't feel their emotions and they don't know what's going on within them, because there's this constant distraction. So anyone that's listening, that's struggling to feel their feelings and their emotions, it's so important to actually just sit there and surrender. One of my mentors said this to me, and I'll never forget, is like, lie on the floor. Let's say you experience anxiety, right? Loneliness, whatever. Lie on the floor, feel it. Let it flood through your body. Notice where you feel it in your body. Surrender to it, because it's in the resistance, in the distraction, in the reaching for the substances, reaching for the phone, reaching for the TV. They just grow louder and louder and louder and stronger. Which I'm sure you experienced when you were back drinking and stuff like that, right?
Oh, it's avoiding, isn't it? It's avoiding that thing that, like you say, you need to go into. And I think you say, you know, surrender, or I'd say at least acknowledge it. You know, acknowledge that feeling, sit with it and think, what is this? You know, again, certainly as guys, we were brought up, you know, to not really be in touch with our emotions and try and understand certain feelings. But I think certainly now, you know, try and sit with it, understand what is this feeling, what is it, maybe try and identify it, but try and understand what it's trying to tell you, you know. And often, you know, as I say, your body's a very, very clever thing in that, you know, your body will tell you if you're not living true to your life or in line with, you know, your body or your own sort of physical and mental health, your body will tell you. Your body will 100% tell you. And I think that's amazing, but you've got to listen to it, because as you said earlier, what people often do is this discomfort. It's like, oh, I don't like that. You know, I don't want to sit with that. So how can I escape that? Well, yeah, let's go and have a few pints, you know, or, you know, people go to substances that there's that avoidance, isn't there? Mm-hmm. And, you know, in essence, you're avoiding the very important thing that you need to go into, you know. And another thing I'd put on record is it isn't easy to go into, you know, some of the things that even we've gone back to or we've discussed, you know, these are not easy things to go into and face up to and discuss. But they are the most important things too, because then you can work through them, in my opinion. And, you know, like a lot of these things, you know, if you don't go through that and do it, it's going to be deep rooted within you, I believe. And it's going to be causing you to behave in a certain way that you might not even be aware of, that could be quite detrimental to your health and well-being. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, I was on a call with someone the other day, and he was telling me all of these anxiety, overwhelm, substances, all of that. And I said to him, I bet you're exhausted, aren't you? He went, yeah, my energy, I'm just drained. I said, yeah, because essentially for people that are listening, it's an emotion is energy in motion.
Yes.
Right.
Tell me that, yeah.
So it's pent up energy that's stored within your being. Yeah. That is, it needs to, well, it's using up calories basically. Your brain, I think your brain is 8% of your body mass, but it uses up 25% of your calories.
I can believe it.
Yeah. Because it's such a, it's better. Well, I don't know if it's better than AI, but it's a machine, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
But it can also be sometimes your brightest lights, your darkest shadows, and sometimes actually your biggest tools can actually have a detrimental impact to your life too, i.e. your brain. There's 3 links to an addiction. There's the mental aspect, there's the physical aspect, and the emotional aspect, right? And when one of these addictive links in the chain break, the addictive pattern breaks.
Right.
So when you can sit with your mental, i.e. what thoughts are arising, how are you thinking, what's coming up? When you can sit with the emotional, i.e. what emotions are running through your body, anxiety, stress, whatever it is, or physical, tightness in your body, sweaty hands, or tightness in the throat or whatever. Yeah. When you can sit with those and one of those addictive links in the chain breaks, the addictive pattern breaks. And part of the work that I do is essentially working through one of those links in the chain and helping them actually sit with that and understanding, right, what is going on here and what link can we break in the chain. It's called an awareness diary. It's super simple. Yeah. Like instead of feeling the feeling and distracting, feel the feeling, write it down.
Yes.
What's going on? What time was it? Was it when you met a certain person? We're in Canary Wharf. Was it when you went into the office in JP Morgan we just saw, right? Yeah. Was it when you saw the certain boss in that meeting?
Yeah.
Was it when someone said a certain word? Like really break that down. In the level of awareness, when you raise your level of consciousness, everything else starts to fade away.
Yeah.
But linking back to what we just spoke about is the distraction. It's so easy to distract yourself nowadays.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I think I can definitely relate to the, you know, through journaling and looking at certain triggers that trigger negative emotions. And then it's in identifying them and then trying to look at, you know, how you could change or go about that situation differently, you know. And I often, you know, things that we get very anxious or worry about, pretty much, I can't remember, but it's a very high percentage never actually happen, you know. So isn't that, what a waste of energy that is, you know. So I think, you know, that is totally right, that, you know, try and identify certain triggers and sit with it, write it. And again, like the journaling's been key for me, because you will 100% see patterns emerging. And that's when if you can see a pattern, then you can start to try and work through that or change something, or And often, again, you know, it can be good things as well. Like, that's something that I think you should do very often, is ask yourself, you know, what really lights you up? What do you really enjoy? You know, because I think I did have to ask myself a few years ago, like, what that was, because I'd completely forgotten. Yeah, I think that's, you know, now it's, you know, write those things, you know, what's happening on a good day? What do I enjoy? You know, try and do more of that.
We did that, the success ingredients list.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
For anyone listening, the success ingredients list is basically Harry was doing really well, and it's like a recipe. We write, cool, let's understand what's going really well. What are you doing in your fitness? What are you doing in your mindset? What are you doing in your emotional set? What are you doing in your behaviors? What do you think about yourself? And whenever you're below an 8 out of 10, you can go back to that list and you can see, I'm not training 4 times a week, I'm training twice, or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's super important.
I think spending time with friends as well, or, you know, you, like my wife, or, you know, often and in person if you can. Because, you know, I went through a time where I was sort of speaking to people, obviously living in Dubai as well, you know, speaking to people or WhatsApping, but there's nothing like just meeting up with someone and having a coffee. Like, we've had about 10 coffees today. And, but you know, meeting someone in person and you know, having that human connection, and, you know, people who, you know the people who, when you spend time with them, you know, they light you up, you come away more energized. At the same time, you know, there is people who unfortunately sap your energy, and, you know, you need to identify that. If you're spending time with someone who constantly saps your energy, you do have to make some tough choices, you know, and that can sometimes be, you know, people in the past who were your friends, or even potentially your family, you know, but you have to be aware of that, because if all someone does is constantly sap your energy, you've got to make a decision there, you know. And at the same time, there's people who just light you up and are great to be around, and you come away feeling more energized. Then it's a simple equation. Try and spend more time with them, you know.
Yeah. Have I walked you through the drainers and energizers exercise?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, we have to do that.
Yeah.
Basically, I do exactly that. We break it down into habits, people, things, places, business, clients, like who drains you, what lights you up, and how can you do more of that? How can you replace drainers with energizers?
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And it's the level of awareness.
I think someone, I can't remember what book is, but somebody calls them energy vampires.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Might have been Robin Sharma.
I think it may well.
Yeah.
Who I really love. And but yeah, it's, you know, energy is so important, you know. It's like it's like give and take, isn't it? You know, you constantly either giving and exchanging energy, you know, and some people just have great energy, don't they? And some people, they just don't, you know, they just have poor energy, you know, very bad draining energy. So I think, again, that comes through self-awareness, doesn't it? And again, you know, I'm a person who wants to try and help people, but you can't pour from an empty cup yourself, can you? Know? So I think you've got to be mindful of your own energy. Sometimes you have to know your boundaries, and we talked about this, you know, you sometimes got to say no to people, you know, and it might upset them, but it's better than you going and draining yourself even more. Yeah. Because you're probably not going to help them, and you're certainly not helping yourself, you know. But I do see a lot of people who are constantly putting others before themselves. And, you know, I think sometimes we need to look at that and say, like, you know, going back to, we are the most important asset. Be selfish to be selfless, you said, didn't you? Earlier? You know, you said that earlier, and that's exactly right. Yeah. But it's not easy, is it? You know, because I think sometimes we don't want to offend people. We don't want to be seen to be upsetting people by saying no. But, you know, sometimes you have to, don't you?
You do. Well, mate, this has been a fantastic episode, and I think a lot of people are going to see value in this conversation. And I just want to say there's been a noticeable difference with how you're showing up differently too. And it's been amazing to see you in person. Obviously, I know you're in Dubai. Hopefully the roles can reverse, and I'll be in Dubai soon, and we can do an episode in Dubai as well. But I just want to say, mate, you are calmer. You do seem happier, and your business is now seeing the benefits from that. You're seeing the benefits from that. And I'm sure your friends and family are too. And I just want to say you should be proud of your journey and where you've come, and how far you've come as well. So again, it's been a pleasure to be in your corner, and I really enjoyed today with the deep dive and the pod and lunch and everything like that too. So thanks, mate.
No, thank you very much. And I just want to say, yeah, keep up the amazing work. Love what you do and want to support you all the way. So keep it up, and thanks again, and certainly welcome you in Dubai soon.
Thanks, buddy. So just for people that may want to connect with you or see what kind of businesses you have and stuff, where can people find you?
I'm active on Instagram, harry.white79 on Instagram, or one of my companies, my coaching company, at Aim Strong Sport. Harry White on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, please feel free to have a look or follow, and also, you know, fire in any questions. You know, I'm always happy to you know, answer any questions or connect with people. So yeah, thank you very much.
I'll drop it all in the description, mate.
Lovely.
Thanks for coming on. Cheers, bro.
Cheers.